Good morning. And welcome to the 2022 Edwardsville Business Forecast. We're excited to have you at this event again, and we're also super excited that we actually get to be in person again. Yeah. So I woke up at about 4 o'clock this morning, and I was pretty nervous, terrible at public speaking, just the general stuff, stomach's all messed up. And so I did what any good speech person does when they get to their venue. I stopped off at the bar. And I sat there and inserted a joke about going to the bar for this speech. I really thought more people were going to laugh at that. My name is James Arnold, and I'm the City of Edwardsville's Community and Economic Developer. I'm your moderator this morning. I'm one of Edwardsville's own. I'm born and raised here and a graduate of Edwardsville High School. I went to McKendree, and as the Beatles once said, I took that long and winding road. I started majoring in history, then athletic training, then medical technology, then biology, and I came out with a master's in educational leadership. My first job upon college graduation, or should I say jobs, I was a cashier at Aldi. I was a janitor on the weekends at Anchor Home Health. I was a sports supervisor for the Parks and Rec Department. I was a soccer coach out at Breeze Mater Day. And the loan bills were coming. It was 2008. It was the Great Recession. So the jobs just weren't there. So my college degree kind of went over here for a minute while I figured out what I wanted to do. In 2010, I received an opportunity to begin my job with Madison County Community Development. I ended my time with Parks and Rec at that moment. I ended my time with Anchor Home Health, and I also ended my time with Aldi, which created 3 job openings in the process. At Community Development, I administered a number of grants where I served the people of Madison County. It was fulfilling and rewarding. This is also when I began my career in economic development. I completed coursework from the University of Tennessee, the University of Oklahoma, and UMSL, all in economic development. I administered the incentives in the 4 enterprise zones in Madison County. Working with all the municipalities in Madison County and their board members molded me into the person I am today. Last year, I was fortunate to receive an opportunity to further my career while working for Edwardsville, the city that is near and dear to me. So here we are today. I hope you enjoy the presentations and the conversations on workforce. With all this said, it is now my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of Edwardsville. Welcome, Mayor Risavy.
Thank you, James. Welcome to our Business Forecast Breakfast. We have a good mix of business owners, educators, residents, elected officials, and business professionals here today. I'd like to thank you to the Ink House for this great venue and to Bella Catering for the food. I'm very thankful for our city's dedicated employees. I invite our city employees and our elected officials to stand. I'm truly honored to work with a group of people who are so dedicated to the success of our city. Please join me in congratulating our city employees and our elected officials. Please stand and be recognized. I would also like to thank everyone here today. You all truly make a difference in our great city. Now we're going to get started, and we're just going to talk a little bit about the numbers, not too much. And we're going to start with our Equalized assessed valuation history. Our estimated EAV for 2021 is $921 million. Our EAV has steadily increased, mainly to the enterprise zone and new commercial developments. As a result, our EAV growth, our city's property tax rate has remained flat. We are estimating our tax rate to be 1.4011%, which is a 0% increase from our 2020 final tax rate. Dollar values of construction. We had $118 million in construction in 2021. A few things to point out. In 2018, we experienced high investment from an Amazon facility and 2 worldwide technologies. In 2016, we experienced growth from 2 Amazon facilities in the enterprise zone. Our 2021 monthly permits. Of the $118 million of investment, $14 million was single-family homes, $88 million was commercial investment, $1.5 million was multifamily development, and $13.5 million was additions and remodels. Our yearly permit totals. In 2021, we issued 1,187 permits. A point of note, additions and remodels were up in 2020 due to remote work and people wanting to invest in their homes. Other outliers include 1,169 roof permits in 2017 caused by a hailstorm, and 812 roof permits in 2010 due to a hailstorm. Our monthly permit totals. We had 43 single family, we had 255 commercial new and remodel, we had 2 multifamily, and we had 887 residential additions and remodels for a total of 1,187. Now enough with the numbers. We're going to talk about a year in review. What we're going to talk about today is new businesses and residential units in 2021. We're going to talk about the Human Relations Committee. We're going to talk about the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And we're going to talk about Spotlight Edwardsville as a way to recognize our local business owners for their good works in our community. So let's get started. Mark Bradley and his company, Mark's Appliance, moved to a new location across from the Montclair Shopping Mall. We've got Big Daddies. They made patio improvements, which included a roof and retractable doors. It's a very inviting outside space. We have a new bank in town, Dietrich Bank. The bank is located at 157 near Teaspoons Cafe. And we have Bagley Farms Meat Market. Newly constructed meat market sits on 157 next to Dobbs Auto Tire and HSHS Medical Group facility. They moved out of their 2,500 square foot facility and are growing into a 7,000 square foot facilities. Bagley's expanded their meat business into a one-stop market. The new model is good for any meal. Most of it is sourced locally and from their local farm. We've got Dobbs Auto Tire Center. In 2021, Dobbs began construction of a new car wash on site. This is located on 157 next to Bagley's and HSHS. 1818 Chop House. They established a new footprint at Trace on the Parkway, which includes a 6,000 square foot restaurant. Adjacent to the restaurant, you can find the 1818 Chop House Butcher Market, which is a new complement to the restaurant. Rocket Bowls, located in Trace on the Parkway, development off of 157. Rocket Bowls opened in May of 2021. We have 2 new salons, Salon Ludic, a premier salon located in Trace, and Moon Salon, which is located on Park Street facing Buchanan. And we have Anderson Hospital, the Goshen campus, the surgery center. It's a freestanding surgery center with an SSM, Cardinal Glennon Pediatric Specialty Clinic attached. Construction cost was $8 million. They have approximately 24 new employees. Their pediatric specialists from SSM Cardinal Glennon include ENT, gastroenterology, urology, and general surgery. Both adult and pediatric surgical procedures are performed at the surgery center, which has 2 operating rooms and a procedure room, pre- and post-surgical areas, lab, and x-ray services. They have a rehabilitation center, which is a 34-bed acute rehabilitation hospital. This is the first in southwestern Illinois. Construction cost was $22 million. It opened in August of 2021, and they have 85 employees. It will provide inpatient rehabilitation services for stroke patients, traumatic brain injury patients, and other medically complicated rehab patients. Right here, it looks like a normal bedroom and a kitchen area. But what they have is a rehabilitation facility. They help people get out of bed, get in bed, learn how to do their dishes, learn how to cook. They treat their patients with respect, trying to get them to reintroduce them into the daily life before they come home. They have new patients room and nursing stations, and they have a therapy room and a smart car. You look at the vehicle there, that is also used to help patients learn how to get in and out of their car so they can go home and start their lives over. And you also have a pickleball and a putt-putt golf. Now, that's not for their employees, trust me. It's another way that they try to reintroduce their patients to normal living, where they could play pickleball or learn to golf again, or just do things that they do every day in their normal lives. And then we have Bjc Outpace Center, located next to the Kohl's on Troy Road. The Bjc Outpace Center at Edwardsville, located conveniently along 159, provides excellent care for you and your family with the comfort and convenience of being close to home, which is something we haven't had. The Outpatient Center opened in October of 2021, offers many key services in one convenient location. The Bjc Middle Group in Children's, Illinois, an affiliate of St. Louis Children's Hospital. They have convenient care which is available to serve the community every day of the week. In their first month, they established 1,200 new patients from the area, from our community. Convenient care services. They have a same-day clinic that provides an alternative to emergency department visits for minor illnesses and injuries for ages 2 and up. They're open every day of the week. Now we're going to talk about Five Guys Burgers and Fries. They opened up September of 2021 and is located in the intersection of Harvard Road and Troy Road across from the Buffalo Wild Wings. Adjacent to Five Guys is Jersey Mike's. It's located also at Harvard and Troy Road across from Buffalo Wild Wings. The manager wanted to highlight the workforce present at this location. They're proud of their new location and they're proud of their employees. This sentiment fits in with our discussion today on workforce. Twisted Biscuit opened their doors in June of 2021. This restaurant is located at the RLP Commercial Park West. They specialize in brunch, are famous for their Bloody Marys. The Revitalized Nutrition Bar opened in 2021 and specializes in smoothies and juices. This is located in the RLP Commercial Park West near Macho Taco and Wangang. The Golden Oak Pancake House opened their doors and renovated the site next to Clarkson Eye Care and Edwardsville Crossing. And now we're going to talk about the library. The library recently had a renovation. This is the new sign that was delivered in 2021. As you can see, it's very modern and vibrant. We have a new circulation desk. We have new quiet rooms, 4 of them. We have a new patron lounge. And we have a very modern teen center. Please make note, save the date. We're having an open house Sunday, March 27th from 1 to 5. We hope you will all come and take a visit. Moving on to Waxing the City. Owner Maureen Selzer brought Waxing the City to town and opened in 2021. This is located at Ironworks on Plum Street, across from the AMC Theater. Just Right Eating opened in 2021 and is located at Ironworks as well. They specialize in meals from breakfast through supper. And now we're going to talk about residential construction. Hawthorne Hills. This is the new construction at Hawthorne Hills, which is continuing to build out. Hawthorne Hills Development LLC is another great Jeff Lance from Lance Homes and Kevin Jones from Prumer Homes Development. Here are some of the styles and amenities located there. The new subdivision includes a pool, walking trails, wide sidewalks, and is located right by the Edwardsville Meyer YMCA Center. There's so many things that have taken place in 2021. I'm sure we've missed some, but trust me, we're very grateful for you. We also have continued build out at Cloverdale and Essex, Governor's Way, Brookshire Hamlet, Dunlop Lake, and Ebbets Field. We have the Experienced Barber and Beauty on the Parkway. We have the Carrollton Bank expansion, and we have Oliver's on Main Street, and we have the Hope Learning Academy. Now, we're going to talk about the Human Relations Committee. The Human Relations Commission was changed to a committee and was established on July 6, 2021. They were tasked with focusing on diversity, discrimination issues, inclusivity, and affordable housing. And we're going to talk about the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which was spearheaded by Alderman S.J. Morrison. BIPAC was established on September 21. This committee was created to develop a master plan for bike and pedestrian accessibility within our city. And we're going to talk about Spotlight Edwardsville, highlighting small local businesses and their owners in Edwardsville that makes our city unique. These films are shared on social media in an effort to increase foot traffic to our town and let our business owners know how much we appreciate them. These nominations come from individuals in our community. Please visit our website, nominate a business that has been impactful to you or that you feel has done something great for our community. The most recent recipients were the Chef Shop, 222 Artisan Bakery, and just released today, Bagley Farms Meat Market. All three owners are here today. Thank you for coming. Now, let's take a look into 2022. We're going to look at some new business and residential units. We're going to talk about Campus to Community Committee. We're going to talk about our Edwardsville Tourism Advisory Committee. And we're going to talk about excellence in Edwardsville. Let's start with Recess Brewing. They're going to continue brewing under new ownership. This is a relaunch of a local brand. As you can see, it's very modern, very welcoming. It also has retractable windows in the front. And we're going to talk about Anderson Hospital again, the Goshen campus. This is their third building under construction. The Anderson Goshen campus is located at the intersection of Goshen Road. This campus displays a major investment in our community, a 50,000 square foot medical facility with an urgent care, Goshen imaging, laboratory services, outpatient rehab center, and 20 primary care providers. Construction cost was $24.5 million. It'll open in 2022. They have approximately 95 employees. This facility will offer the convenience of both physician services and diagnostic services in one location. All of these facilities are a part of Anderson Healthcare's new Goshen campus, located on 15 acres at the corner of Goshen Road and District Drive. The campus plan includes the addition of 2 more buildings in the future. We have Bank of Madison County. They're renovating at 119 South Main Street for a move scheduled in August 2022. We have Benton Place, located on Benton Street, adjacent from Bjc Bank. This will be a 3 townhome unit. This is a development by Mike Rathgab of Spencer Homes. And we have Trace on the Parkway, residential construction. It began on the 3rd residential building at Trace. The building will have 77 units. At Trace, they have amenities such as access to restaurants, goods and services on the Parkway, fire tables, pool house, direct access to MCT trails, courtyard plaza, and a business center, and much more. And we're going to talk about Oaxaca, which opened on the Parkway and pitches a strong margarita game. It's been very busy there. And Morgan Stanley's coming to town at Trace. Another tenant on the Parkway that's currently under construction. Morgan Stanley looks to open by the end of 2022. Something that we're really excited about the city is the RP Lumber Center. Not only will it be a hockey rink, but it will be a teen center, a fitness center, a community facility with a walking track and with rental space available. Construction is underway on the ice rink and the track. This will be the home to Edwardsville Tiger Hockey and will also be utilized by District 7. And we're looking forward to the Edwardsville East Fire Station. The groundbreaking is scheduled for late 2022, early 23, with a completion date in 2024, which is exciting to us because it coincides with our fire department's 150th anniversary. And now we're going to talk about the SIUE Health Science Building. The project is located in the northeast corner of South University and Thank you for that. It's located at the northeast corner of South University and University Research Drive, approximately 220,000 square feet. Requests for proposals decisions will be made in 2022, with construction beginning in 2023. The building will be the home of the schools of nursing and pharmacy, but will also be available for teaching students enrolled in health and human behavior courses. Also, I'd like to welcome our new SIUE Chancellor here today, Dr. James Miner. Dr. Miner, could you please stand so we can give you a warm Edwardsville welcome? And now we're going to talk about the Mandy Jackson Center for Humanities. We are excited to announce that in January of 2022, it was decided that the Mandy Jackson Center will not only be utilized by Lewis and Clark Community College, but will also incorporate District 7. Community groups such as the Lincoln School Alumni Foundation will be able to utilize the facility for their meetings. Here today, we have Dr. Ken Treska, the president of Lewis and Clark Community College. We have Dr. Patrick Shelton from District 7, superintendent, and we have Herman Shaw and others from the Lincoln School Alumni Foundation. Please stand and be recognized. Now we're going to talk about AB InBev at the Gateway Commerce Center. This is our newest distribution warehouse, AB InBev, located in the Commerce Center, and it will have 210 square foot footprint. And next, we're going to talk about the farm at East Union Street by Fund Construction. The farm will contain 14 units, individually owned residential buildings arranged around a centralized courtyard for common use located on East Union, 1 block off of Main Street. Peel Wood-Fired Pizza. Welcome to the development 157, another great Fund Construction development, which is an exciting new location for Peel Wood-Fired Pizza, as well as 8 premier luxurious condominiums. Also, coming in 2022, we have Drunken Fish, Kimchi Guys, Nothing Bundt Cake, Clementine's Creamery, AQ Nail Salon, Edwardsville Bank, 1818 Offshore Restaurant, Blue Violet Restaurant, The Essential Venue, The Loading Bar, Milan Laser Hair Removal, Hawaiian Brothers. We have Neighbors Bakery, located at Whispering Heights, and so much more. We tremendously have a commitment from business owners who truly love to come to Edwardsville, and we're very grateful. Now we're going to talk about campus to community. The committee was formerly known as the Edwardsville SIUE Community Destination Group. Lewis and Clark Community College was given an appointment on the committee. The committee works to drive the community to the university at SIUE and the college at Lewis and Clark Community College, while also working to drive students to our businesses, parks, and our amenities. It's extremely important that we have our students in our community, in our city, visiting our restaurants, being involved in our charitable organizations and our churches. We welcome them. And now we're going to talk about the Tourism Committee, which was spearheaded by Alderwoman Elizabeth Grant. This committee was created to focus on defining tourism for the city, as well as promoting and obtaining new events to come to the city, like the Edwardsville Rotary Criterium, Opera Edwardsville, the Edwardsville Art Fair, the Futures Tennis Tournament, the Halloween Parade, Goshen Market, and Kicks on 66. Stay tuned, because we have more exciting events forthcoming this year. And finally, we have Excellence in Edwardsville. This award was created to encourage public service through selflessness. This award recognizes residents whose generous efforts, contributions, and achievements foster and enhance civic pride and responsibility, promote appreciation, and embody the spirit of our city. As you can see, it is a coin, and it is in a holder that was created by one of our own, James Henschel of the Police Department. This holder was created at the Lewis and Clark Community College Fab Lab here in town. We're very grateful to have residents in our community that make such an impact and to be nominated by our own employees. That concludes the year in review and upcoming projects in 2022. I would like now to welcome James Arnold back up to the podium.
Thank you for sharing that information, Mayor. Through the challenges of 2021, Edwardsville remained vibrant. As we enter 2022, it appears that we are off to a great start and for that trend to continue. Today's topic is relevant and important. We will discuss the current workforce and workforce development opportunities. As I stated earlier, I created 3 job openings in 2010 when I quit working to start my career. I considered these jobs entry-level. It has been 12 years since that moment. Is this still the case? With those jobs being filled immediately, is that still the case today? Are job openings harder to fill? Where are the workers? These are the questions of businesses. This topic and these questions guide today's conversation. One housekeeping item, please hold the questions for our speakers until the designated Q&A. Our first speaker, Marty Johnson, serves as the manager of the Workforce Analysis and Dissemination Team in the Economic Analysis and Information Division, which is part of the Illinois Department of Employment Security. Her incredible team of labor market economists and career planners provide labor market data, employment information, and economic analysis to a wide audience across the state. Marty transferred into her current role from the Illinois Department of Revenue, where she led a team of economists and data analysts and served as the chief economist. She has been a public servant with the state for almost 9 years. Prior to her tenure at the state of Illinois, she spent 15+ years in the financial industry. Her educational background includes an undergraduate degree in social policy from Northwestern University, a master's degree in business administration from the Booth School at University of Chicago, and doctoral work in organizational behavior completed at University of Illinois at Chicago. Marty is also a proud graduate of Edwardsville High School, and she and her family reside in Glen Carbon. I believe we have the Edwardsville CEO program students here today, correct? Welcome. Please delete the next paragraph from your heads. My first conversation with Marty sent me into panic. She asked me if I was the Jim Arnold that she and her twin sister Wendy went to high school with. Look, I was young, dumb, and stupid. I can admit that. It happens. Was she going to bring up all my detentions? Or the lunchroom incident? I pray she does not. Or was it the time I skipped math class for 2 months and roamed the halls as a senior? It was then we found out she was talking about my Uncle Jimmy, and I've never felt such relief as that panic was lifted. Today, Marty will discuss topics such as employment in Edwardsville, the labor market, and job sectors. Please welcome Marty Moore Johnson to the floor.
Thanks, James. Great. Thank you. Good morning. I'm going to adjust this a little bit. It's so nice to see everyone's faces. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the invitation, James and Mayor Risavy. I am an Edwardsville native. I actually grew up attending District 7 schools with my twin sister, as James mentioned, and I had the pleasure of graduating from Edwardsville High School, and then I headed to Chicago for my continuing education. But when my 2 daughters came along, we decided to move back to the Edwardsville area. So I'm pleased to say that both of my daughters attended District 7 schools and graduated from our high schools here in Edwardsville. So it's just a pleasure for me to be back here. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, I had been commuting back and forth from Edwardsville to Springfield for the work that I was doing for the state of Illinois. And when the governor had suggested that all state of Illinois workers should work from home if possible, I had the pleasure of coming back to the community and staying here for the last couple of years. I reside in Glen Carbon. So it's very nice to be out in public seeing faces again with no masks. I see some familiar faces as well. And so let's dive in with no further ado. So when James had asked me to talk to this esteemed group today, he had given me the request of talking about our workforce, talking about the business forecast for the Edwardsville community. And of course, as we've mentioned already, the main story here with our local economy has to do with the workforce. Where are the workers? How has employment recovered or not in Edwardsville? What does the labor market look like? Who's still sitting on the sidelines? And what sectors or industries are still struggling to find workers? What industries have achieved a sense of normalcy since the start of the pandemic? So these are some of the topics that I'll share with you today. And then following my presentation, my colleague Tony Furman will be discussing further the opportunities of local workforce programs that can help businesses and job seekers alike. So he'll tie in some of the comments that I'm making this morning. So I want to start off with a comment about data and its availability. I'm a data person. Some of you might groan, oh, it's numbers. I'm not sure I want to hear numbers. But with labor market, it's all about the numbers, and the way that we economists approach our work, we look at the numbers to give us indication about what policy decisions should be made or not made. So the data give us insight. And we're fortunate with labor market data because they come so frequently. Most of the labor market indicators that we'll talk about today are released on a monthly basis. And at my state agency, which again is Illinois Department of Employment Security, we collect data from samples of Illinois businesses like those in our community and individual residents. And we survey on a regular basis these different groups, these samples of businesses and individuals to find out, okay, where are you working? Who's working for you? What are the wages? What are the hours? So this is the type of data we collect at the state level, and then we, as a department, send the data to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is on the national level. And the BLS compiles these data based on different regions. As you can imagine, when you take a larger sample of data, those data are more accurate because there are more data, more data points to cover and to examine, and it cuts down on the noise. So many of the regional data that we look at are more reliable because there are such large sample sizes. When we get smaller into smaller, more narrow geographic areas like City of Edwardsville, the data aren't as numerous. It contains a lot of noise. And so you won't hear in this presentation a lot of data that are based at City of Edwardsville level simply because there's just not enough data points to be comfortable with. So my focus today will be largely on Madison County and some of our immediate area communities like county level data and other regional areas. And then we also are part of a workforce area that we're tied with Madison County, Bond, and parts of other regional counties. So you'll see some of these different regions, and it's because the data is derived at those particular regional levels. So I know some may be disappointed, well, this doesn't really talk to Edwardsville specifically. Unfortunately, it's just too small of a geography to really be comfortable talking about those data. So one of the first things that I want to look at is where is our employment right now in Madison County? And we can look back the past decade since the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009 and see that the lines on the page, for those looking at the screen, the blue line is Madison County and the red is the state of Illinois. We track very closely, Madison County has historically, with the rest of the state. And generally for the past 10 years, with 1 year exception, which I believe was 2018, our unemployment rate runs a little bit lower than the state's unemployment rate. And that's, again, a testament to the resources, as the mayor was discussing, that we have here in the Edwardsville community, Madison County. We are resource rich, so we tend to have lower unemployment rates. We also look good, if you will, in terms of other counties across or workforce areas across the state. So the map of Illinois that's in front of you, the dark or blue areas are those where the unemployment rate are quite a bit lower. So Madison County and Bond area, we're tracking currently at the end of December at about 3.3% rate of unemployment. And that's just a little bit under where the state's seasonally adjusted unemployment rate is, which is closer to 4.3%. So again, Madison County comes out ahead. But the interesting question is, we feel excited. 3.3% rate of unemployment, that's an incredible, we should feel fabulous. And the question is, why don't we still feel great about where we're at right now? Well, the answer is that compared to pre-pandemic levels, we are actually down by about 5% of our jobs. So if you're a business or an individual and you're feeling as though, gosh, some of the economic indicators I hear about in the news, all of them are good news, why does it not feel like we've arrived yet? It's because we haven't. And so we'll delve into that further in my presentation to see what segments are still struggling to find workers and what sectors are still struggling. But one way to review where we have employment and where we've recovered is to go back a few years, pre-pandemic, and compare the numbers of employed at that point in time to where we are today. And I chose an end point 2 years after the original. And if you look at the chart on the screen here, Madison County is listed first, and I compare it to the state of Illinois. In 2019, September, that was when Madison County had the highest number of individuals employed. That was our high point. So I chose that high point as a matter of comparison, and then I looked 2 years out. And what I ran was an analysis of, in September 2019, what was our employment distribution? So the percentage of headcount or employment in each of the super sectors. How did that look at that point, and where are we today, to get some idea of, are we normalizing? The other part of this analysis that I ran is to look at the state of Illinois. Because it's interesting, we are a region, Madison County is part of a larger Southwest region, as I mentioned, and we have different strengths in our community. Those who have studied economic development are very aware of how Madison County has certain strengths that we bring to bear compared with the rest of the state. So I think it's illustrative to see how do we compare to the rest of the state back at our high point in 2019 and fast forward to September of 21. So what I was surprised by a little bit was in September of 2019, our area had a much higher percentage of those employed in the trade, transportation, and utility sectors than was the overall state of Illinois. And it was a surprisingly high amount, 30% higher. So what that tells me is that our area, that is a big driver of our employment. That's a big driver of the resources that we gather, partly because we're in a geographic location that lends itself to transportation, warehousing, that particular sector. So that was a little bit surprising. I knew it was higher, but it was quite a bit higher than the state of Illinois. And we also have a slightly higher percentage of leisure and hospitality entities in employment. That was true in 2019. And even in fast forward to September of 21, we still have a slight edge of leisure and hospitality compared to the rest of the state. But conversely, some of these sectors, because we're strong in them and those were a big part of our labor force, if that industry got hit hard during the pandemic, which leisure and hospitality, of course, did, we are still struggling in that area. The red bars on my chart show those sectors that have still yet to reach their pre-pandemic levels. To some extent or another, we've recovered in largely the other areas, but we're still struggling to find workers in the educational and health sector, leisure and hospitality, as I mentioned. Manufacturing, we're off just slightly. Same with construction and other services as well. Financial activities is still a little bit underwater compared to where we were 2 years ago. The state of Illinois as a whole has recovered just like the rest of the nation, but again, as a state, as a whole, leisure and hospitality and other services are still underwater, so to speak, in terms of employment. Population is a driver of labor markets. That's where we glean all of our workers from our population. So economists in my field, we study very closely what is the population doing? What is it? What are the demographics doing? What's changing? Well, hats off to all of us here in Edwardsville. Over the past decade, from the last census in 2020, it turns out we've added to our population in the city of Edwardsville by about 10.3%, which is phenomenal, given that, yes, it's worth a round of applause. That's very notable. And it's, of course, for all of us who've grown up here, it's no surprise because it's just a really terrific place to live and work. But Madison County has struggled like most Illinois counties. Madison County, you can see from the chart that the population is actually on the decline for the overall county. But honestly, that puts us in pretty good company with the rest of the state. It's hard to see from your seats, but the blue and the dark blue are those counties that are actually growing, and the population is growing. Most of that's happening in the northeastern segment of our state. But Madison County is in good company. The majority of our counties over the past decade have lost population count. But we are excited here in Edwardsville because we have a good labor force to draw from. And one of the things that my agency tracks are the demographic characteristics of our workforce. So we're very interested in knowing what the split is, male, female, minority status, ethnicity. These are drivers of the labor force and also will inform businesses how do we need to reach out to those individuals for our workforce, and also what kinds of retail and business type offerings can be supported in this community given our demographic base. So our workforce, and this is a snippet from actually some reports that we put out online. I encourage all of you to take a look, for those who are inclined to look at data, to go to the Illinois Department of Employment Security, our website, under labor statistics, and you will see all kinds of data to your heart's content. And this is one of the, I just did a screenshot here, but there's a lot of information here. The takeaway is that women in our workforce, our local labor force, make up about 51% or so of our labor force. Men, again, at 49%, and minority folks make up about 15%. And I believe that number has been growing over the past decade. So again, this is informing us of where our labor force is and what those folks look like. It's also something worth mentioning, and it wasn't on the slide, but as our population has grown in Edwardsville, our ages have gotten older. So even though our population is growing, we have a higher percentage now in those later years of age groups. And so that's significant when we start talking about the labor force and where people have somehow disappeared. Where are these workers? Part of the answer is simple demographics. When your population ages, they decide, I want to retire. If they've done well, they retire earlier. And especially with the pandemic, that's what we saw. People on the fence, whether they want to retire, I'm done, I want to step away from the labor force. So some of the dynamics that you're seeing right now is simply demographics. But there are other things that businesses can do to entice workers. We're going to get to that in a minute. But we look at the labor force for Madison County by year, and this is the average annual. So this is the average annual. Of course, seasonal employment does pick up workers, like when we talk about seasonal employment, that would be the summertime for outdoor workers and landscapers and construction. At the holiday season, we have seasonal workers that come to work in retail and bulk up for the holiday season. So we have some seasonal variation. So as economists, we just take the average annual numbers. But you can see my chart starts in 2010, and the line starts quite a bit higher than it has for the remaining decade. Again, part of that's just simply demographics, as I've talked about. But the labor force really declined in 2013, 2014, and then it picked back up again. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, of course, the labor force was fairly decimated, and that was true here in Madison County. You can see that it had declined to a low of 131,000 persons. Again, fairly low, but what you also compare that with is the employed. How many of those in the labor force are employed? So we look at these employment trends, which of course naturally sync with the labor force, because the labor force is where you draw your employed folks from. Employed persons are a subset of that labor force. By the end of the Great Recession, again in 2010 on my slide, the numbers were a little bit diminished, 125,000 people. It went down for several years, but starting 2013, we were on an upward trajectory. So we reached the high point, as I mentioned earlier, September of 2019. That was when our labor force peaked, our employment within the county peaked in September of 2019. When the pandemic hit, again, we lost employment, and we were down to about 121,000 persons working. So we know that there are still job openings. If you're a business, you know that you're still trying to find workers. You're wondering to yourself, well, what do I need to be looking at? Wages always come to mind as an incentive for people to return to the workplace. So I thought it would be appropriate. I'm going to just touch on this briefly, and then my colleague Tony will talk a little bit more about wage data in a more current version. Again, the wage data, because it is fraught with a lot of statistical noise, we don't have wage data that's to the moment. I know it's frustrating to people to not have the wage data that's hot off the press, but there's a lot of statistical work that has to go into compiling the wage data to make sure it's accurate. So the data that I'm presenting here are up through June of 21. I've analyzed the data for the last 3 years, so June of 2019 through June of 21, and then my last column is the growth rate. How have average weekly wages grown, and has the pandemic spurred that activity? As you can see, yes, clear at the bottom is the state of Illinois. Over those last 3 years, the average weekly wage has gone up 12%, which is very significant. Typically in a recession, you'll see wages depressed, and then when the recession has normalized, then wages, boom, take a big step up. In this case, from this very start, the wages have continued on an upward streak. So the state of Illinois, the growth has been about 12%. In the Southwest EDR that we're a part of here in Madison County, along with a whole bunch of other counties, the whole Southwest Economic Development Region, or EDR, the wages have grown about 10%. In Madison County, we've got some room potentially to grow the wages. The growth has been at 8%, so nonetheless it's gone up, but not as much as some of our close neighbors. So if you're sitting out there thinking, well, do I need to be increasing my wages to entice some workers? Possibly the answer is yes, because our increase in wages has not gone up dramatically compared to our immediate neighbors. There we go. So the remaining question for this morning, who is still on the sidelines and what industry or occupation did they exit before they left the workforce, even if just temporarily. And as I mentioned earlier, at Department of Employment Security, we collect data, and we are charged with managing the state unemployment system, and we work with the federal government to do that kind of work. But we collect lots of data on folks who are unemployed, who have started receiving some unemployment benefits. So we call those claims. Those are unemployment claims for those out of work. They are still seeking work. They need some compensation to help them through that tough spot. So those claims data are very illustrative of where people are still finding it hard to break back in or find solid work to return to the workforce. So what I did in this illustration, I started out in January of 20 so that we could get some idea of what the baseline is. And normally on a normal year, we might have 1,500, 1,800 claims in any given week. That number, as you can see, spiked up. And actually, the spike didn't come in March of 2020. There was a bit of a delay. So our spike actually occurred at the end of May here in Madison County. And then it's had a roller coaster ride, sort of getting back to normal. And then finally, at the end of our chart here at the graph, we see by December of this past December, we're back down to more normal levels of unemployment benefits and payouts. So we're getting close to normal. But it's interesting to see who are the folks who actually were sidelined, and now in the most recent take, has that composition changed? Have we had a shift? And indeed we have. If you look at the little table, and again, I encourage you to look at the slides because you can see this a little better. But initially in June of 2020, when we hit our spike, women were the hardest hit. About 60% of the unemployment claims were women, and then to men's 40%. Well, that's normalized now closer to what it normally is, which if I can read that screen, I think it says closer to 46%, and men are closer to 55%. That's what we normally, that's our normal trend. But initially in June of 2020, the work group hardest hit were the ages from 25 to 34. That group got hit the hardest, and then followed by the second age tier bracket above that. That group was also hit very hard, the 35 to 44-year-olds. Our youth were also hit significantly, a bump up to 15%. The normal for our young people who are just out of high school or still working part-time runs more like the 5% that you see now. So we've had a shift in who is still on the unemployment benefit ride currently. But we'll see what industries were most of these workers originating in June of 2020, and then how have we gotten kind of righted the ship, so to speak. Initially in 2020, we discussed this accommodation, food services, that's the leisure and hospitality. No question the hardest hit. And then, and maybe this wasn't a surprise if we through health services also was the next hardest hit, social assistance. So what brings these two categories or sectors, how are they similar? It's customer-facing or client-facing work. That's the work that was effectively shut down because of the pandemic and health concerns. So if you were a forward-facing or customer or patient-facing, those were the occupations and industries hardest hit. But fortunately, since we've gone now through 18 months or almost 2 years of the pandemic, by January, this January, so the first week of January, which really captures the end of December, we've had a rearrangement of sectors that are still struggling. You see at the top construction. That shouldn't be a surprise. Again, I talked earlier about seasonal work. When construction workers are let go temporarily, they collect unemployment benefits. So it stands to reason that about this time of year, we'll see construction workers with higher levels of unemployment claims. But the transportation and warehousing industry surprised me a little bit. This is the group that like the Amazons of the world that do transportation transportation of goods and warehousing and couriers and messengers and stockers and that kind of thing. That's also right now where a lot of our claims are originating. But again, I think we can take that back to a seasonal view of workers coming out of the holiday season. So that activity has normalized a little bit. So that's back down to maybe a realistic level. I'm a little bit dismayed to see that manufacturing is still high on the list. And again, and then the fourth down are the administrative or support services. So we've shifted and we've regained our footing for many industries, and then others still struggling a bit. I'm going to glance over these next two slides because I want to stay on time. But what I want those out there in the business world, if you're still seeking workers and you're wanting to dig down further into your industry or particular occupations, you can reach out to myself or reach out to Tony, and we can, with a few days' notice, provide this type of detail. And what we're looking at now is for our workforce area, the number of claimants or those collecting unemployment and what their occupations are. So this is current information. This is as of the last week of December. And you can see for the healthcare area, healthcare techs and healthcare services. So those occupations are still running short. These folks are sitting on the sidelines. They've been laid off, or they're not coming quite back into the workforce. So you can see pretty readily what areas are still hurting for workers or to bring them back. So this illustrates healthcare, and my next talks about transportation and warehousing. Again, the lion's share there are from the transportation bucket, so those would be truck drivers and bus drivers, that kind of thing. Again, seasonal work probably. And last, I want to talk about the sectors in our region that have fully recovered their workforce, and then those that are still running a bit shy. The same messages are coming through. We've already seen that several sectors, leisure and hospitality, and educational and health services, still have yet to reach their pre-pandemic levels. The listing here of the sectors is not random. The line on top is the greatest numbers in our workforce, so it trends down from there. So the top line is that transportation, trade, and utilities. It has reached its full capacity compared to where we were 2 years ago, as has the government sector, which is the next that kind of turquoise line. But once we get below that, we're seeing shortages, as I mentioned. Education, health services, and also leisure and hospitality is running short of its workers. So we are approaching normal, but we haven't gotten there yet. So if I were to summarize what we're looking at as economists for this area, for Madison County, where we live, where we work, I have three overall takeaways. And the first one is that we're optimistic about this region. I think the resources here in this community give it the wherewithal to get back to some sense of normalcy. We expect that the workforce should return to some type of normal in the next 12 to 18 months. We think that's very positive. I think businesses also have the ability to bring those workers off the sidelines. We saw that there are a number of them sitting, waiting for the right opportunity, perhaps. And so businesses can take a look. We encourage businesses to look at the culture and the flexibility and what they're offering to candidates to suggest, I can work with this, we can do some remote work, we can retain our remote work. We will change hours to accommodate childcare. These kinds of decisions that in the past maybe businesses weren't needing to make. But it's a step in the right direction in order to bring back the workers who have perhaps given up, or they've stopped looking, or they have some other barriers in their ways. So businesses are encouraged to take a look what factors in their business would appeal to some sitting on the sidelines, and to be flexible in meeting employees halfway in terms of what it might take to entice them back. But it's within our means to do that, and I think businesses can also reach out. We've got my agency, which is the Employment Security Agency. Tony's going to talk about his resources. I think the message is one of optimism, and I am very hopeful that in the next 12 months we will get back to what we all enjoy doing on a full-time basis, if not a truncated one. So I appreciate your time today, and with that, I turn it over to James for an introduction. Thank you.
Marty, thank you for sharing the insight on the workforce numbers and what they mean. As you know, data analytics is essential to running a business, and I'll be looking to you when businesses have analytical questions, specifically about workforce. Can I get one more round of applause for Marty? That fantastic presentation leads us into our second speaker, Anthony Furman. Tony has served as the Director of Employment and Training for Madison County since August of 2017. He holds a Master in Marketing Research from SIUE and is well-versed in workforce development. Tony and I worked together on numerous projects while I was with Madison County. Some of you may know, when we talk with site consultants now, we are to a point that while location is still very important, the very next question is always about workforce. I've seen Tony host events where he has drawn state legislators as well as our legislators at the federal level. He can work with all types of businesses and can be a huge resource for the city of Edwardsville. In early 2018, I invited Tony on a trip to Edgerton, Kansas. We went to visit another distribution center similar to what we have at Gateway Commerce Center. We were there to visit a training center that was run by Johnson County Community College. This led to some very nice conversations about a workforce training center in Gateway with a cooperative model from Swick and Lewis & Clark. During this visit, we were not necessarily there to meet with the developer, but this relationship built and proved integral in the development of Gateway Tradeport and Pontoon Beach as North Point came to town and broke ground in 2019. As an economic developer, I've grown accustomed to partnering with Tony, and the city is fortunate that the relationship continues. This relationship has grown so much that we actually have bro names for each other. He calls me Jimmy Elbows, and I know him as T-Bone Tone. You'll have to ask him the history of that in the Q&A. Today, Tony will discuss workforce issues, wages, and workforce development. Please welcome Tony Furman.
Good morning. I am going to have to break the streak here of graduates of Edwardsville High School. I am not one, but I would say that 5 of my children have graduated from Metro East Lutheran in Edwardsville. We'll take that claim. And my 2 degrees from SIUE. So, okay, let's go. This one, right? You didn't put everything up. All right. There we go. So Marty touched on a lot of quantitative data. My presentation is more qualitative, what we've heard over the last couple years from the business community, other entities. So my presentation is twofold. One is to discuss those qualitative issues. The second part is to explain some of the programs that Madison County Employment and Training has available to the business community, which I will say they are all at no cost. So we get asked that question a lot when we present the chambers and things, what's the cost? There's no cost to the businesses or individuals for anything that we provide. Battery dead? No. So a few months ago, I was driving down the interstate by Collinsville and saw this billboard, and it basically describes the situation that as a business you're probably all in. It's a billboard advertising to hire billboard installers. So this is the part where my wife says I'm too vested in my job. When I turned back around and pulled on the side of the interstate to get the picture, I tried to get the semis out of the way, but there is a car in the picture. So, but it really is, I mean, as the business community, I think you can all relate to that and what we've seen specifically the last year or so. So why? So what have we heard over the last 2 years that is affecting the number of people in the workforce? Number one, 3 million baby boomers retired since the start of the pandemic. I guess this is good news. I mean, the economics have changed a little bit since these people left the labor force. The stock market was way up, it's come down. Gas is way up, so those people that have left, quote unquote, retired are starting to work their way back into the labor force. An interesting statistic, most of those people have never applied for Social Security, so they're thinking that it was more of a break as opposed to a retirement. And why? I mean, older people, the number of factors weighed into that. I mean, I'm an old person, so I'll take credit for this. Working from home was not the easiest thing for someone who's not as technically savvy. I mean, the younger generation went home and could do it pretty easily. Somebody who has worked in an office their whole life to be sent home and try to remote work had issues. On there also, remote learning for children. A lot of these people at this age, quote unquote, retired to stay home to do the remote learning with their grandchildren. That way their children could keep working. Another thing that we saw, especially if you go into a restaurant and retail and you have to wait, there's 1 million less people working part-time jobs. Why is that? A lot of it probably has to do with the next thing on there, enhanced benefits. There was a lot of discussion at the beginning of the pandemic of the extra unemployment and how that affected people wanting to work. But as far as the part-time jobs, the jobs in the restaurants, the jobs in the retail that people work as a second job, the advanced child care tax credit that people received put a big dent in the people who needed to work the part-time job. So as that ends, we may see that group coming back into the market as well and alleviate some of the issues in the restaurant and the retail business. Child care shortages continued. There's a statistic that 10% of the child care providers throughout the country left the child care industry at the start of the pandemic or are not coming back. So there's a push, I know, at the state level, at the federal level, to try to train and enhance people to start child care facilities because there is a definite need to it. And the last one on there was the continued fear of COVID. I think as we all sit here without masks on, that is ending. I think Marty mentioned it too. The positions that aren't being filled are the public-facing positions, the retail, the restaurants where people had contact, where if there was a fear of COVID or the next variant, that they were a little less likely to want to work in those jobs. So everybody can agree the world of work has changed. In the last 6 months, I've heard the term workforce culture more than I've ever heard in my entire life. And what does that mean? What we're hearing is employees have options, so they want to work in an environment that they feel comfortable in. I've heard people talk about having fun at work, so I mean, I think you look at the Googles of the world, things like that have sort of their play areas for employees. I mean, I think that's what the new generation is thinking work should be. The old way to manage is not the right way. We hear stories of people who try to manage the old way with the new generation, telling somebody at the last minute you need to work an extra 4 hours or being pretty gruff with them, and people just say, no, I'm done, and go on to the next job. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, we hear that term a lot, but as people move forward into a diverse workforce, it needs to be more than a statement. As a business owner, they need to understand that that is a different culture that you need to create, a different attitude. If you bring someone in from a diverse background, but you run your company the way it's always been run, that's a lot of times not a good fit, and that is not going to get where people need to get, both on the employer side and the employee side. So, and the big piece is remote work. Home is a nice place to work from, right? I mean, especially we hear stories from the IT field where they get told, well, we're going to start bringing you back in, and they say, no, I'm going to go find a different job where I can keep working from home. So I think the Midwest, there's young people that think it's pretty neat to be working for a company on one of the coasts and sitting in their basement doing their work. So the bottom line is employees, job seekers have the most influence in recent times, if not ever. I mean, I think business owners see that on a day-to-day basis. So wages in the workforce. You know, we've had this big discussion in Illinois about minimum wage, but does it matter anymore? I mean, we've seen wages go up. I'm surprised for Marty that it's only 8% in Madison County. And our conversations with several businesses, I mean, they've gone up 20, 30% in the last year. So does it matter? I don't know. I mean, what we've heard from businesses, as the minimum wage goes up, that also is an increase for everybody else in your organization. So it does matter. So job postings in Edwardsville. Marty talked a lot about the industries. So these are 5 years of job postings out of newspapers, social media for specific to Edwardsville. And as you would expect in a city that is driven by retail trade had the highest number of postings. Interesting, education services is second, and we'll come back to that in the next slide. Transportation and warehousing, which is the big industry in this area, has it. And then the fourth one, again, is accommodation and food services in Edwardsville, all the restaurants. So this compares 5 years from January of 17 through December of 21 to the 1 year of January 21 through December of 21. You can see that things have flipped. So the red line is for the year. So education services became the big driver of job postings for this year. My take on it is the educational institutions were hit hard by the pandemic, and they're rebooting, bringing people back live and online, so a lot of those support functions had to be refilled. Retail trade in Edwardsville is always going to be a big piece of it. Transportation and logistics, as we talked about, is a key driver in this area, and then the food services as well. The one that I will point out there that made a big impact and is moving forward is healthcare. As the facilities have opened in Edwardsville, the need to fill those facilities has risen, so you see that increase in job postings. In the last 30 days, again, education services is by far leading the pack, followed by retail, and then healthcare as well. So we're seeing those industries reboot, move into the next phase, and they're looking for employees. So now I want to switch to the programs that Madison County Employment and Training have to offer to help businesses, and I always go to this quote. It's from then President Ronald Reagan, August 12th of 1986 in a press conference. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language: I'm from the government and I'm here to help. So I'm from the government and I'm here to help. So whether this will be terrifying or soothing, we'll find out in the next couple minutes, okay? So to understand what we do, the funding, so even though we are a county department, we're 100% funded by the federal government through the Department of Labor. And a typical government program that flows down through the state at the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, so they can cut their piece out, and then it flows down to 22 local workforce areas throughout the state of Illinois. The reason I put this slide in is if you're a company that has locations throughout the state or even throughout the country, what I am talking about here is part of this federal legislation, so these programs should be available anywhere you go throughout the country. To understand what we can do, you need to understand who we serve on the job seeker side. So our funding is split into 3 buckets. One we call the adult population, which basically is low income. So currently our upper limit is 70% of the poverty level. So if they receive government benefits, they're automatically eligible. The second bucket is dislocated worker. That's pretty self-explanatory. Somebody who's laid off, somebody who's receiving unemployment, is exhausted unemployment. And then our third bucket is a youth program for individuals 16 to 24, and that is split into 2 subsections. One is in school, which we deal with the high schools working with youth to get them prepared to move into careers, and the other is out of school youth, where we work with them possibly to achieve GEDs and also work experience and move into employment as well. So our programs that we offer for businesses, recruitment assistance. So if you have a job posting, we can post that in our system throughout our social media. Just a stat for you, from July 1 of 2021 through the end of February, we have posted 1,072 job openings for employers throughout the Metro East area. Our The network we have is over 200 entities throughout the St. Louis region, so if you have a job posting that you want, please reach out to us. We can get it out through our system. We have all four of the main social media sites. I will tell you, our Facebook page, we have roughly 6,000 followers. We've had a couple jobs posted lately that have been shared 800-900 times, so it does get out there. It's an entity, or it's an available service for everyone, that there's no eligibility, there's nothing. I mean, just reach out to us and we can get your jobs posted for you. We do job and career fairs. We can do on-site events. If you don't have the space to do it in your own facility, you can come to our office. We have space where you can bring people in to interview, or you can try to meet with people who are coming into our office. Each year in September, we do a large job fair at the Gateway Convention Center in Collinsville in conjunction with St. Clair County. That will be coming up in September. If you're at that point in the fall still looking, please reach out to us. We can get you a booth. Again, no charge. The state has implemented what they call virtual job fairs in the height of the pandemic, where you can work with the state, set up a site on their site, and you can do one of two ways. You can set up what they call a booth, which you can record some things and it's available to anybody coming on the site. Or if you want to do a live virtual job fair, we can do that as well. And we do skills assessment and testing. If you have pre-testing for employees or interviewees, we also have the capability to do that as well. Then the three programs I want to talk about a little bit more in detail are the three that are funded programs: on-the-job training, incumbent worker training, and apprenticeship. So on-the-job training, very simply, is if you hire someone who meets one of our eligibility requirements, we can pay up to 50% of their wages for the first 6 months as you train them. And the reason for that is we understand a lot of the adult population that we serve really do not have the job skills. They don't have the job experience. So this is an opportunity for someone to bring them into their company. We know there's going to be more hand-holding, more one-on-one, to offset some of the wages to make it a benefit for the employer. So what's it do? It provides hands-on training. We're providing the payment to offset those training costs. Everybody wants the opportunity to train an employee the way you want them. This is your opportunity, and you're investing in the company. I mean, I'll say this over and over again. What we see is people who feel companies invested in them are more likely to stay, more likely to flourish in your company. Incumbent worker training. So this is the one program that we have that's not based on an individual's eligibility. It's based on the business's eligibility. So if you're a company in Madison County, you're eligible. And this is upskilling your current workforce. So we will come in, work with a training provider, find the skill set that you need for your employers or your employees to train them up to the next level. What we used to see in the past was a lot of a company would bring in some new equipment, want to train their workers on that equipment to bring them up to that skill level where they would be productive. What we saw in the last couple of years, quite honestly, was a lot of leadership training. People were being promoted from that first line up to leadership or into a management position, and they did not have that skill set. So we've done a lot of that lately. I go back to the one employer that we had that said they moved their frontline people up who were friends with the people that they made them managers, and they all turned into Attila the Hun, and they were worried their whole workforce was going to walk out on them. So again, it helps your company stay competitive by upskilling to the current trends and the current skills needed. You can increase profits, again, support growth of your company as you move people up. That opens up those lower level positions to bring other people in. And employee retention. I mean, any business owner here who would like to tell me that it's easier to find a new employee nowadays rather than keep the employee you have, right? So anything you can do to retain the good employees, that's what you want to do. So the apprenticeship program, when people think apprenticeships, I'm going to look to the union table over here. They think the trades. The Department of Labor has over 1,000 different registered apprenticeship programs. We'll get into the ones that we have here, but a registered apprenticeship program through the Department of Labor has to have 5 pieces, and they're listed there. There has to be a classroom training component that can be in person or online. There needs to be an on-the-job training part. There needs to be an individual at the work assigned to those individuals to be a mentor. There's progressive wages, so as they learn, as they hit benchmarks, their wages rise. And at the end of it, the individual receives a Department of Labor certificate saying they are a registered apprentice. So why would a business want to do this? I mean, again, from the government, I'm here to help, guys. So people think any type of these government programs involve a lot of paperwork. In our region, Lee Reese, who is out here from St. Clair County, I'm going to have to give him credit. They beat us by 2 weeks being registered as a National Department of Labor sponsor for apprenticeship programs. What that means is that we can do the paperwork for the businesses. So St. Clair County was first in the state, Madison County was second. So, but why apprenticeships? You know what, you can train the apprentices to the exact skills you need for an employer. Apprenticeship programs, the standards that you set can be very much by your business, by your needs, by what skills you want that individual to have. Again, it increases retention of employees. If you're investing in the employee, they're going to stay. I will tell you the statistics that we see nationally is someone who goes through an apprenticeship program, I've heard anywhere from 91 to 94% retention. So again, they're receiving that standardized credential that says, hey, you know, they're trained, they're ready to go. And what every business wants to know, their return on investment, $1.48 for every dollar spent. So there is a positive return on investment, and in this day in the market, you have a steady supply of skilled labor. So again, in our region, we are quite honestly one of the leaders in the apprenticeship expansion program in the state of Illinois. Just wanted to put on the board here pretty quickly the different areas that we have apprenticeship programs. In the last 3 years, 2 years actually, we've established 16 new apprenticeship programs. In our 9-county region, we have 134, 136, somewhere in there, apprentices that are either going through the program who have actually received their certificates. So manufacturing, there's 7 there. You can see from aircraft maintenance down to welder. In healthcare, there's 3. Certified medical assistants, a combination between a CNA and a patient care technician and a pharmacy tech. Hospitality, 3. So I want to mention a couple of these very quickly. The first one, the food truck. This is the first registered apprenticeship program in the country for a food truck. So it's through Social Kitchen, which is located in Swansea. In addition, the first person who was put into the apprenticeship program is a disabled veteran. If you want to see inspiring things of why we do what we do in our business, there's a video out there from last year from our apprenticeship program where Glenn, who is the first registered apprentice in this program, talks about what this program has done for him and how it's affected his life. So the next 2 are both through the City of Collinsville with the Collinsville Special Ed Department. They're for students with learning disabilities. We're working with the Gateway Convention Center to get them registered apprenticeship programs in event planning and housekeeping. Also, the landscape and gardening one is through the City of Collinsville with their Parks and Rec Department. So what we hear from businesses over and over and over now is we need to reach out to the high schools. We need to develop programs to create that talent flow before they get out of high school. So I'm going to point out Caleb Smith here, who is the Madison County Career and Technical Education Director. Caleb works with the high schools to develop those types of programs. So if anyone has an interest about the high schools and what you could do to connect with the high schools in the county to develop and work with those programs and reach out to those students, Caleb is the person to see. So a new model that's been developed that's being used in Belleville that we're looking to expand in the region is what is called internships to apprenticeships. Basically, senior students are going and working in companies half a day. They're getting paid in a paid internship position. When they graduate, if the company feels they're a good fit, they move them into their registered apprenticeship program. Why? So the business gets to test drive this possible employee. You're able to instill your business culture and mission statement in the intern. So if you keep them on, they already know the business, they already know what you expect of them, and they become much more beneficial to your company. And again, I know all these slides say the same thing, but the need to develop a steady stream of talent is tops. So So we talked a lot about supply chain and logistics. So what I want to mention before I talk about this very quickly is, if anyone walks into your business and say that I can fix your workforce problems, show them the door, because workforce is the most partner-driven thing that I've ever been involved with. You need the right people to work together, and I'm very happy to say in our 9-county region, we work together better than anyone else in the state, and we're seeing the benefits of that. So it's one of the projects that we're working on that demonstrates this and is meeting a need with the top industry in the county, in the region, is the supply chain logistics project we're working on. You can see it's the 2 workforce areas, my own and Lee's in St. Clair County, so it's 9-county region. It's SIU Edwardsville is a 4-year institution. It's Lewis and Clark, SWIC, and Kaskaskia College, the 3 community colleges in this 9-county region. And what we've done, we know supply chain is growing, so we have sat down with the ultimate plan that each one of the 4 education institutions in the 2 workforce areas will be able to identify all the programs that are available in these education institutions, develop a continuum, so to speak, of programs and projects and education opportunities for anyone who wants to enter into the field. Also, James was talking about site selectors. This also becomes a selling point for individuals looking to build the next warehouse down at Gateway or the trade port or wherever that this project exists. So it's 3 phases. Again, phase 1 is what we're working on now, and I reach out to anyone who is in the supply chain or has someone in the supply chain logistics area. We're currently working to train 200 current employees, so it's what we call the Incumbent Worker Project, on supply chain and logistics and basic things from front-level staff to move them up. Again, each one of the 4 education institutions has one piece of that, so it's a 4-week Friday all remote learning project that we're working on a program. Phase 2 is that overall education training continuum. So what we've learned already is that on the back end, on the front end, whatever you want to call it, we have a bridge to warehousing program for individuals who have not even achieved their GED up through SIU. E now has in their management program a specialization in supply chain and logistics. So we have diesel mechanic, we have a 5-class certification period from SWIC. So we're continuing to identify what we have, put this together, try to fill the holes and figure out where the needs are. That way the education institutions can meet the needs of the employers and possible employees. So phase 3 of this was supposed to be outreach and education to the high schools and even to the grade school level. And when we met with businesses in this field, they said, no, we need that as 1A. So we've been working pretty aggressively with Caleb to try to identify some possibilities at the high school level to get students interested in supply chain and logistics and to create that sort of path into the industry. Last thing I want to mention is we've developed a series of workforce roundtables for this year. In the past years, we've done a couple in October and November for Manufacturing Month and Apprenticeship Week, but we've added to that this year. These will all be held at the Gateway Convention Center in Collinsville. First one actually is next week, and it's specific to programs for reentry individuals, so people who were justice involved. I will tell you again anecdotally, if you have not considered that population, what we hear from employers is individuals coming out of the justice system make really good employees because they're used to a structure that a lot of people aren't used to. They will show up on time, they will put in an effort, and they will be appreciative of the job. So the next one after that, again, is supply chain and logistics. So if you have that opportunity in April, if that's something that interests you, please reach out to us and we can get you the information. And I will leave you with this. Again, I hope that wasn't too terrifying, but if you have any questions, job postings, anything we can do for you, please reach out to myself or Leonard Dollins, who is over there. In typical government fashion, his title is Work-Based Learning Coordinator. Basically, that means he works with the business community on these programs, getting jobs posted or whatever. But thank you, and I guess I'm supposed to. All right.
The hard part about speaking after somebody is I always have to bring the mic down a foot. That's just a reality in my world. I'm going to make a slight tweak to our program. We're going to save the Q&A for the very end, and we're going to move on to the next part of our program. So I would like to ask Mayor Risavy to step up to highlight 2 of our businesses being recognized today.
Thank you, James. I'm going to move it back up. I'm a little taller than you. So, exciting part of the program right now is we have some awards to hand out. We're going to have a Large Business of the Year award and a Small Business of the Year award. These are businesses that have made a huge impact in our community and do great things for people. We're going to start with the Large Business of the Year award, which is going to Fund Construction. Originally from the Chicago area, Matt Fund moved to Edwardsville to obtain a degree in construction management from Southern Illinois University. It was there that he met his wife, Kristen, a 1994 graduate of Edwardsville High School. For the next 24 years, Matt spent time leading some of the largest and most notable projects in St. Louis. He was fortunate to collaborate with the world-renowned architects and engineers for projects at Washington University, the St. Louis Art Museum, and the St. Louis Zoo. These experiences helped to fine-tune his vision and passion for unique design and a collaborative construction approach. 2 years ago, Matt left his position in St. Louis to focus full-time on Fund Construction. The company has since grown into a team of 30 talented individuals that are proud to be based in Edwardsville. You don't have to look far to see many of their great projects. 100 East Vandalia, the Film House, the Genie, Ben 51, Mark's Appliances, the Ink House, the Flats, the Ice House, 157, and many others. In addition to her work at Fund Construction, Kristen also owns and operates the Ink House venue and has time to be a school board member for District 7. Matt and Kristen are both very involved in giving back to Edwardsville, including to organizations such as Edwardsville CEO, Habitat for Humanity, District 7 Schools, and SIUE. Please join me in congratulating Matt and Kristen for their award of Large Business of the Year, Fund Construction.
I guess I'll go first. Really, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, James. Thank you to the city staff. I want to thank you for getting Matt back into the Ink House because I probably have a list of 2 pages long of things he needs to do here. So afterwards, please just let him go sit back down because he's got work to do. So, Matt, I'll let you go next.
That probably tells you who's in charge. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, the city. I'd like to thank our people in our office, our customers, our vendors, our bankers, everybody that's here. We can't do this without you, and appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Now we're going to move on to the Small Business of the Year award. It goes to Mark Bradley of Mark's Appliances. Mark grew up on a small farm in northern Iowa near a little town called Burt. His parents, with 4 kids, raised corn and soybeans along with some hogs. In addition to farming, his dad, with his mom's accounting help, had a small business in their house where they sold farm chemicals, grain bins, and grain handling equipment. He learned all kinds of things from his parents, so when it came time for Mark to leave home, rather when he had enough sense to think about what he wanted to do with his life, he had it in the back of his mind that he wanted to open a small business just like his dad. After graduating from college, Mark worked for a Maytag company where he learned about appliances. He married his wife, Rebecca Dunn, who had just started her dental practice here in Edwardsville. They thought Edwardsville would be a great place to raise a family and open an appliance store. In April of 1994, thanks to Joe and Linda Stevens, Mark opened his first location in Edwardsville at the Market Basket Shopping Center. 1 year later, they moved to the shopping plaza in front of the Do-It Center on Center Grove Road, and they were there for 27 years. During that time, Rebecca and Mark raised 3 boys and enjoyed being a part of the Edwardsville community. They want to thank Fun Construction, the City of Edwardsville, Jacob Faulkner, and many others. They moved to their newly renovated building at 1507 Troy Road in August of this year. Mark is very proud to have his son, Drew Bradley, working with him and here today. They provide sales, service, and parts for most all brands. They try to make it easy for customers by treating them the way they want to be treated. They have fantastic employees who sell, deliver, and install and service most of their brands. Mark has shared that his business has been blessed with great customers and employees. He is very grateful for all of them. Please join me in congratulating Mark's Appliance and Mark Bradley for Small Business of the Year.
This is my son, Drew, and this is Drew Bradley. This is Jacob Faulkner. He helped immensely. Thanks to Kristen and Matt for coming up with this great idea for my building. And really thank you for all the current customers and, again, my banker, Steve. I couldn't do this without, or couldn't have this without all this help, just as Matt said. So really thank you all very much. Appreciate it. City of Edwardsville, thank you. Yep.
Now I would like to call James Arnold back to the podium.
Our next speaker today, Anya Covington, rounds us out and is also our 3rd graduate from Edwardsville High School. Anya is also a very proud Wisconsin Badger. Anya is involved in numerous entrepreneurial and philanthropic service organizations. Anya owns her own business, Human to Human LLC, where she has created and executed a service-based business plan that reaches to 6 different states, 9 universities, 2 high schools, and 4 corporations. She has developed and implemented diversity, equity, and inclusion training programs and online courses. You'll also find out shortly about her incredible public speaking skills, which put me to shame. She speaks on social, economic, spiritual, mental, and physical enhancements. She also has such a great story to tell. Today, Anya will deliver empowering words. Please welcome Anya Covington.
I'm gonna be a little bit different and take this off here so I can move around because I don't have slides, I have me. And I wanna thank everyone for coming out here this morning. Please give yourself a round of applause. Those were the softest claps I've heard all morning. Please give yourself a round of applause. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, for asking me to be here. Thank you, James, for the introduction. And you've done a great job. I can't tell that you struggle with public speaking. Can we please give it up for James? Yes. I stand before you a daughter of a 101st Airborne Ranger. You can clap for that. Yeah. I stand before you as a daughter of an educator and an innovator. I'm speaking of my father, who served in the military for 16 years, and my mother, that's been an educator for over 30 years, that started schools in the state I was born in Tennessee. And I also stand before you humbled for this opportunity. And my purpose here is to motivate you, okay? And so I was a coach for over 8 years, so please believe this is what I love to do. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun, but I had to introduce my parents first, because you gotta know that we all come from something. We have a story that we get to display in the most unique ways as business owners and government officials. We get to bring our stories with us everywhere that we go, and that is what empowers us. So with that being said, I coached for a long time. You think I'm young, but I got a little bit of experience behind me, I promise. And while I was coaching, I had the opportunity to travel all around the world. Even when I was playing, like I said, I was a Badger, which you'll hear a little bit about that later, and I got to go overseas and play in Germany and be in different countries and see how other countries implement equity and how they have conquered what we are facing today in terms of the advancement of humanity. And so with all those experiences, I came up with this acronym, BRAVE, because it reminded me of my father, who served selflessly in the military. And it reminded me of my mother, who was very innovative, all just the things she created. You guys, if you knew her story, it's crazy. And BRAVE stands for bold. So we're gonna create a brave space here really quick, so stay with me. The B stands for bold, which means being courageous in a moment. And I wanna thank all of you for being courageous, because you know what? To start a business and to sustain a business, it takes some courage. Would y'all agree? Absolutely. To live this life successfully, it takes some courage. So I'm going to ask for us right now in this moment, for my next 8 minutes, for us to continue to be bold. The R stands for ready. And usually I talk about the readiness we have to have emotionally, because when we're dealing with people and we're dealing with issues, we're dealing with people's past experiences, their trauma, and their current experiences. How many of you survived a 2-year pandemic that we still might kind of be in? Did you survive it? Yeah, you can clap for that too. You can clap for that too. We're still here. We're still here. But I'm going to ask us to be ready to not want to go back to pre-pandemic days, but to elevate our thinking to move forward and allow the pandemic to give us the space to rethink our present and our future. So I want us to be ready to be amazing innovators, which you already are, but I'm gonna give you a little quote to get you encouraged in that today. The A is accessibility, and I'm talking about your heart. We have to have accessible hearts to take in people that don't look like us and that speak different languages and have gone through different experiences. Would you agree with that? Good. Look at y'all. And then the V in brave is vulnerability. And it takes all of us. We really can't move forward if we're not able to be vulnerable, which means you have to share your story. You have to share your story, because your story is the one thing that someone needs to keep walking in their story. So please know the value of your story. It's everything. And then the E in brave is equity, and that's the thing we should be searching for each and every day, that we should be working towards each and every day. So we just created a brave space. And so we're going to do a little practice, because I want you to get to know some people in the room really quick. I know I only got about 6 minutes left. So we survived a pandemic, and I'm guessing everyone in here listens to music, yes? Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to give you about 2 seconds. I want you to think of a name of a song or a song lyric that would encapsulate the past 2 years. I know, that's like, we all listen to music. I know some of y'all thought of a song. I want you to turn to your neighbor and I want you to share that song with them. Ready, set, go. Oh, I love it. You guys, great job. Do I have any volunteers to come sing? No? No? Okay. We'll hold off on next time. Next time, we'll have volunteers. Now I would like for you to think of a song that represents you. I hope a few songs came to mind. Share it with another neighbor. So I don't know who you guys talk to up here, but yes. Miss Phyllis, you didn't think of a song? You guys got a song? No? Nothing? Maybe you need a few songs. Maybe you need an album. Okay, very good, very good, very good. If you had more to share, please feel free to share later. Because see, what we just did is we went from macro to micro. We generalized 2 years to a name of a song. And the importance of songs and lyrics, first of all, is transferable. We could hear a beat right now and it could have lyrics that we don't even understand our language and we could still resonate with it. Would y'all agree with that? Music has that way of reaching, transcending languages because there's an emotional aspect to it. You all got emotional. I saw laughter. I saw people's faces bright up. It was an amazing thing to see. But the challenge within that was for you to take something that was global, right, our first question, to a micro that was personal. That was personal. And in that, I'm hoping that who you shared the title of your song about who you are, I hope that in that moment you began to show a piece of your heart. And that's our hope. Your heart, you, the people, us in here. My message for you is hope today. It's hope. Marty brought up optimism. Oh, we're so optimistic for Edwardsville because we have amazing human beings like you that are willing to go from macro to micro, that are willing to put in the time, that are willing to be people worth emulating. So I'm going to give you one thing before I go. I think my time is close to up. So I want you to repeat after me. Faith in love in hope. All right, so 3 of those things you can actually see. I talked about 5 intangible things, but 3 of them you can really see, and 2 of them, they build the other 3. So stay with me. The first thing I'm gonna talk about is faith, okay? So faith is our vision. Can you guys with your hands make a, okay. A lot of our frames are right here. So like if I had the opportunity to make a frame, it probably would be bigger than this room, but my example was kind of small. So now I want you to think about your vision that you have for you personally, because I'm not just talking about your business, because I want to be clear on this. We are not just who we are within our business. We are who we are with our family. We are who we are when we're by ourselves. We are who we are when we're at church or when we have the uniform on or when it's off. So now I want you to think about your frame as a human being. Draw that frame, please. Got bigger. It got bigger. I even had some different shapes. Mr. Pitts, yours isn't even closed. I see it. It's just open-ended. All right. Very good. Very good. So our frame is important. That's our vision. Okay? And that's our faith. So I'm going to charge you to hold on to your faith, and this is how you do it. You persevere by committing to greatness. Greatness is undefined because you have to define it. It's a level that hopefully is unattainable, but it gives us a process towards perfection. None of us are going to be perfect. Would you agree with that? No. Okay, if you're perfect, come talk to me. I want to know how you got there. But faith is the journey to a commitment towards greatness. I'm going to challenge you in that. And so I said faith, and then I gave you in, and I was saying I-N, and that I-N stands for another word. It stands for integrity. When you have faith, it's rooted in the foundation, and your foundation is your integrity. Integrity, if I may read the definition, is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. It's the state of being whole and undivided. I'm gonna just give you one example, and the next 3 I'm gonna keep rolling. So like I told you, I played for the Badgers. We made it to the NCAA tournament in 2010. And I was not starting. I was up for 6th player of the year, yeah. So we had a starting 5 of seniors and juniors, and we played against Vermont. I can't stand Vermont because we lost, okay? So don't talk to me about Vermont. So our starting 5 is juniors and seniors. We would say the elders on the team, and they weren't quite getting it done, and that happened because they were a huge catalyst of getting us there. And so us freshmen and sophomores got to come in a game, and guess what? We start coming back. We actually took the lead, but because my coach's mindset was that we were going to win or lose with the seniors and juniors, they put them back in. We didn't lose because they were put back in. We lost because we weren't brave. We weren't brave. Vermont was a team mixed up. They had seniors, juniors, sophomores, and one freshman starting that year, I believe. And they were very much diverse. They took in the personality of their team, and they actually flowed with the people that were getting the job done. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so in that, they produced equity. So the team that survived those, I think we were playing halves at that time. Was it, Jesus? Yes, it was halves at that time. We're quarters now, forgive me. The team that got the victory at the end was the team that was able to meet the call of equity. And so my encouragement to you is that our foundation is our ability to strive for equity. And equity makes space for love. See, when I'm striving for equity, so everybody has a voice, and my business is open to all, right? I'm thinking of those that may or may not have disabilities, or may have grew up in the country, or may have experienced some type of brutality. Then man, I can love them where they're at. Yeah? Would y'all agree with that? And our love is our pulse. Can everyone just grab their wrist? Because I'm a visual person, yeah. And so I think we do something like this in the medical world, and we take our thumb or something, and we feel where our wrist is to feel that our heart's beating. Can y'all try that? Are you alive? Do you have a pulse? Then you have the capacity to love, and love is knowing that there's something greater. It's sacrifice. For me, God is love. I have to state my faith. God is love. But for those who may not believe in that, you have to believe in something greater than you. Thus, you're able to meet people where they're at. And when you do that, it makes space for your personality. And our personality and our experiences, they engineer our innovation. This is an innovative group. This breakfast is full of movers and shakers, as the NAACP would say. And as innovators, I'm going to ask you to keep thinking and rethinking your vision and how that becomes equitable, and how you, because we're the hope, are the change and can produce cultures of innovation that produce the change necessary for today and tomorrow. Remember, we don't want our children to have to be doing the things that we're doing now. We want to make a better way. So then their innovative, which is their personalities and their experiences, can shine through. And when we do that, we become the people. We become the people. We become the people of hope. You all are the hope that we're referring to. And how you go about this, so say with me again, faith in love in hope. That opens the door to not only our workforce, but the growth of Edwardsville. With that being said, I want to thank you. I took so many notes. Tony, Marty, you guys are amazing. Thank you for letting me speak to you today. Come talk to me if you want to talk, but more or less, go out, you guys, and be the change that you believe. You are the hope. Thank you. Okay, I think that's good. Is that all right? No, thank you. Thank you.
Wow. I don't even know how to follow that. Thank you, Anya, for those beautiful, inspiring words. Please give Anya another round of applause. I feel as if I want to tackle every challenge as if it is an opportunity to better myself. I'd like to invite Mayor Risavy back to the podium before we close.
Thank you, James. Before we close tonight, there's a few people I'd like to thank. First of all, my dad's here. He's 82, Art Risavy Sr. If there's anybody who's truly taught me about business, it's been you, Dad, so I appreciate that. Thank you. I'd also like to thank the Ink House again, and also Bella Catering for the food. What a great space, great food. Thank you so much. And I want to thank our city employees, our department heads, and our elected officials that are here today. It's truly an honor to work with such a group of dedicated people. You know, I get a lot of questions, or how things are going, how hard is it? Yeah, and I want to say, we have some great employees. They really do things right. They really work hard. They really care about this city, and I'm very grateful for them, and I mean that. So. But I have some special recognition. I would like, when I say your name, please stand. I would like to thank James Arnold. Desiree Gerber, who's here, thank you so much. And we have 3 people from our IT department, Devin Gray, John Cunningham, and Neil Kulpico, who are here today. Thank you for your hard work and dedication in making sure this breakfast went great, so I appreciate that very much. Most importantly, really today's about you, everyone in this crowd. We have such a great city. Our city doesn't happen without you. Your time, your investment, your care for people in our community, everything that you do. I'm truly feel honored to live in Edwardsville. I'm honored to be the mayor, and I want to thank all of you for coming today. Thank you.
We are going to formally close this event, but please feel free to come see us afterwards, ask questions. We have answers. They're not shy. They will tell you, they will answer you. But one last time, I have to thank our speakers today. And we have to thank Mayor Risavy for allowing us to have such a fine event. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. On the back of your program, there is a QR code available for you to scan. This will take you to a landing page where the presentations are available, as well as a link to a survey. Please take this survey and provide us any feedback you wish. On behalf of the City of Edwardsville, I thank you for coming today.